Adelaide, the city of churches, partly cloudy today and a top of 28 degrees.
$10,000 phone call coming up in the next 10 minutes or so.
But first, check this out. This is Mick Foley, also known as Mankind, in his wrestling heyday.
That was Undertaker.
He's a whole lot of man, isn't he?
He certainly is. But more than just biff and brawls, he's also a Renaissance man, an author, actor and comedian. And Mick joins us now. Good morning to you, Mick.
Hi.
But you've done it all. Tell us about this incredible career.
Could I drop a name, first of all? I was just watching that, and I forget. This sounds bad, but I forget how good I was. I really do. And it was about, several months ago, I got this email from a young lady named Stacy Keebler, who some people might know.
Oh, yeah.
The email said, do you think you could suggest a couple of matches for yours that I could show to GC? And it took me a second. I was like, she wants to show my matches to George Clooney? And so I went back, started looking at these YouTube clips, and I was staring at the thing. I was like, I was really good. Yeah.
That was a big fight, wasn't it, with the Undertaker?
Well, you know what? There's a nice paradox, because the stuff I did was pretty scary, and some of it resulted in injury. But there's an underlying warmth to the stories I tell, and we actually find great humor in the events surrounding those injuries.
Stand up for us.
Really?
Yeah, stand up. You are a man mountain. Look how big you are. But are you funny? Because you just started stand-up comedy.
Well,
you bring it down.
Just started stand-up comedy. When you saw that scene of me being thrown off that cell, that was actually the start of my stand-up career. Honestly, because my wife was really upset at me. Like, I called home several hours late. I thought it was a legit, guy excuse because I was unconscious. And then my wife yelled at me. She's like, you can't do this to us anymore. And so at that point, I realized, wow, I got to start connecting with the audience on a different level. And so I started, putting some humor. And the change as far as popularity was almost immediate. And so I've been doing funny things within wrestling for a long time. And the books I wrote were always funny with an underlying sense of warmth.
Is there something funny about that Hell in the Cell match? Because you dislocated your arm, you ended up with your tooth inside your nose.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
There's something
inherently funny about that also. No, there's not. But there's funny stories, like a guy will say, a guy comes up, I get over for an oil change, and then one guy goes, wow, you're moving kind of slow, huh? I said, yeah. I guess that wrestling takes its toll. I said, yeah, it sure does. He looks me right in the eye and goes, you ever get hurt doing that? And then another guy said, yeah, I noticed when you got thrown off that cell, you landed on a table. I said, yeah, and he goes, and it broke your fall. And I said, yeah, it was a magic table.
How do you go from that to writing children's books?
Yeah.
I don't know. I had a very successful book in the U.S. I wrote by myself, by hand, and it kind of opened the doors to doing other things. So one day when I woke up and decided I was going to be America's most beloved author of children's books, I went for it. So on the way here to L.A., honestly, I rewrote that first book for a new generation. It's Christmas Chaos. Hopefully it'll be out in some form. And I plan to write. I've been writing down notes. I will have another children's book completed. That's the one benefit of having the 35-hour trip. Is that you can write a children's book while you're on the
It is a very long trip. Tell me, what hurts more, wrestling and having a tooth end up in your nose, or a joke really dying on stage?
Well, I tell jokes that die on stage on purpose because I enjoy it. I'm going to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame at Madison Square Garden, which may be the most famous arena in the U.S. And I plan to have a closing line that's just bad, so bad that no one else will even aspire to tell a story that bad on stage.
Has anyone ever been game enough to heckle?
I don't usually. I get over-exuberant fans sometimes, and they yell out random things. Once in a while, a guy will not take it. Will take it a little too far on the drink, and let his exuberance get the better of him. I'm prepared for those moments. And also, the guy who's touring with me, Brendan Burns, is an amazing comic, and he will put them in their place long before I get out there.
You don't open the show with, you will sit there, you will watch, and you will laugh.
You know, that's generally. Although I have come out, I had an audience heckling an older woman who was my warm up, and then I walked out, and my opener was to go, I want this guy out of here, and they were escorting the guy out, and then like the crowd kind of got to me like, oh, that's the wrong person. Apparently I owe someone an apology. And so I learned something every time I go out, and I like made mental note. Don't make opener a violent altercation. So I've got it down. There will be no such shenanigans here in Oz.
Thank you very much for joining us. You're performing at the Enmore Theatre tonight in Sydney and then down in Melbourne on Monday night. Have a great trip.
Enjoy it.
Good to meet you.
Thanks, Mick. Well, a $10,000 phone call is next.